The Cybrarian presents The Lost Winter. Written and illustrated by Samwise Didier. Audio samples courtesy of YouTube Audio Library. Additional voices by Cybrarian. Suitable for all ages. Original publication 2017. Unabridged. Chapter 1. The March of the Giants. Massive thunderheads cracked in the northern skies of Isengard. Snow and hail fell upon the world in a blanket of ghostly oblivion. The great oceans froze and turned from violent waves to jagged sheets of green ice. Lord Windtear, the greatest of the frost giants, raised his axe, and the roar of 1,000 fiends of Isengard echoed into the pale frozen night. Far to the south, a hellish glow lit the skies of Firehome. Volcanoes erupted, spitting fiery ash into the atmosphere. King Sumir, the ruler of the fire giants, held high his black iron sword, and it ignited with a burst of crimson flame. War horns blared, and a choir born of 1,000 beasts of fire resounded into the blackened dawn. The brothers of Frost and Fire marched forth from their realms with death and vengeance in their hearts. Each army had but one destination in mind: the island of Mistgard. Their goal was its annihilation. Though surrounded by roaring chaos, the island of Mistgard lay in somber silence. No fires lit the hearths, and no songs filled the dens. All of the great lodges stood empty. Those missing from the halls were known as the Pandir, and all Pandir, from chieftain to warrior, from young to old, congregated in the circle in the sky. The circle was an old burial ground, perched high upon the wind-swept cliffs of Mistgard. And it was here where the clans would gather to honour their ancestors, and return them to the earth. Surrounded by tall obelisks of grey and brown granite, the Pandir clans stood grimly as the sleet and ash started to fall. And if they felt the chill or burn, they did not show it. The clans, numbering 8 in total, had not gathered together in such numbers for many years. Feuds and clan wars had gone unchecked for generations, fragmenting a once united people into separate factions. But today, the rival clans put aside their grudges to pay their final respects to the mother of all the clans. On this day, Spriggan, the Den Mother, the benevolent giantess who created the first of all Pandir ages and ages ago, would be laid to rest. Legends told that before time began, there were only the great skulls in the sky. They floated through the endless astral oceans and grew lonely amidst the stars. They chose to join with each other, and when they aligned, life was born. To this life they gave a name: Spriggan, the dawn of creation. They watched Spriggan and placed her upon a barren world, where she claimed a small area of the realm and created the mountainous island of Mistgard. She was the living avatar of the land, the sky, and all of their beings. The Pandir, the flora and the fauna were all her children, and to all of her offspring, Spriggan gave 2 gifts: life and the will to live it as they would. Some beasts grazed, while others survived by the hunt. The Pandir, her most evolved creations, farmed the land, foraged the hills, and found sustenance among the mountains and the waters surrounding the island. All of Spriggan's children contributed to the perfect symmetry of existence upon the Isle of Mistgard. Soon after the creation of Spriggan, the giant Sumir, the son of fire, strode forth. As Spriggan created Mistgard, Sumir took a large area to the south, shaped the realm of Firehome, and filled it with foul, burning beings of ash, fire, and obsidian. Following Sumir came the silent sun. The stone giant, Fel. Whereas Sumir was rash, Fel was somber. Unlike Sumir, Fel had a strong bond with Spriggan, and he chose to create his kingdom beneath that of his sister, calling it the Underrealm. After the birth of Fel came the largest and most powerful of giants, the bringer of the end, the frost giant, Wintir. He seized the remaining areas of the world and spawned the frozen lands known as Icegard, which he filled with abominable beasts born of ice and bone. Wintir looked to the heavens and belched forth storms and hate toward his creators. The skulls in the sky grew fearful and separated, never to join again. Returning to the high heavens, the skulls in the sky left their children to wander the newly born world alone. All of the giants ruled over their realms. While Spriggan gave her children free will, the other giants subjugated their creations to have no will other than that of their creators. Firehome and Icegard were bitter enemies from conception, and the kings of frost and fire battled constantly for control of the world. And when fire and ice met, Mistgard sat and defended its shores. The united forces of Spriggan and the Underking Fel easily repelled the unorganized and divided armies of King Sumir and Lord Wintir. But time, even for one as powerful as Spriggan, crept slowly upon her. After many millennia, Spriggan walked amongst the world less and less. Her emerald hair turned to flaxen silver, and she seemed more content to dwell among her great forests, tending her hives of bees. Spriggan fell into long lapses of deep sleep, and while Spriggan slept, her brothers would exert their dominance upon the world and rule. All giants had their time and place in the realms. It had been such since their creation. And though she was near immortal, Spriggan's time had come to an end. Chapter 2. A Mother's Farewell. Spriggan was dressed in a simple gown of green and amber, and her hair, normally intricately braided, had been brushed smooth. Ribbons of silver were tied to a graceful set of horns that grew from her head, and her body lay quietly on a bed of fresh moss, pine needles, and soft grass. Upon her breast lay a small crystal of purple amethyst, a gift from her brother Fel. Spriggan was mother not only to the Pandir, but all the creatures of Mistgard. They too came to bid farewell to their beloved maker. Tokens of respect were piled around her cairn. Wreaths of wild flowers and clutches of berries adorned her memorial. Large herds of elkhorn gathered around and placed bouquets of fresh leaves upon the mound. Tiny blackbirds and grey gulls flocked above in slowly moving circles and, one by one, dropped a pinch of moss or a bit of seashell on the earthen bed. A massive, one-eyed Jaeger hound, followed by his growling pack, bullied his way forward, leaving joints of meat and bone from a fresh kill. All the beasts of Mistgard gave what they could to honour the departure of the Den Mother. After the tribute from the children of the forest and sky came the gifts from the children of hearth and hall, and their offerings varied in nature as much as the clans themselves did. From the northern clans of Iceclaw, Jadebow, and Ironbeard were animal totems carved from perma-ice, bows of yew wrapped in icy blue frostbloom, and pine cones filigreed in shiny silver. From the great clans of the south, the Sunspear, Hammerheart, and Mistcloak, came golden-wrought shields, stone warhammers wrapped in wreaths of glowing fire blossom, and supple blankets of mistreed cotton. The offerings from the central clans, the Thundermaw and Darkcloud, were the most intricate and lavish. The skilled carpenters of the Thundermaw carved an ornate wooden apiary adorned with dozens of beautiful lacquered honeybees. The Darkcloud were undoubtedly the finest painters and tailors upon the island, and they gave to Spriggan beautiful silk banners dyed in her colours, green, amber and silver. On each banner was an embroidered triangle with the corners pointing up like mountains. The clansmen nodded at the skill and craftsmanship of the offerings, some with approval and some with jealousy. After the clansmen had laid their tributes upon Spriggan's cairn, they fell back and watched silently. No one, neither pandier nor beast, spoke or snarled. All eyes were upon an old, silver-bearded pandier. He was a tall, imposing figure dressed in blues and greys, and upon his head a large set of sprawling horns jutted out from under his mane. Though ancient in years, he clutched not a walking cane, but a long, black spear. He was known by many names. Names like the Grey Rider and the Horned Hunter to the northern clans. To the southern clans he was known as Stormspear and the Grim Grey One. But the common name that he was most known by was the Storm Speaker. He turned towards Spriggan and placed a braided wreath of flowering honey pine needles on the mound, and gently laying a hand upon the altar, he gave a solemn farewell. After a moment he turned his attention to an ancient stone obelisk and spoke with a voice that was the sound of gentle rolling thunder.
The children of Spriggan have paid their last respects, Under King. We thank you for allowing us to say our goodbyes. Your sister, our mother, will be greatly missed.
The Storm Speaker bowed deeply and joined the rest of the gathering pandier. With a rumbling, the silent obelisk and the smaller ones around it awoke. The stones uprooted from the earth and, on legs of living rock, surrounded Spriggan's mound. They joined their misshapen limbs, formed a crude dome, and reverted back to quiet, unmoving granite. Spriggan's mound, once open to the storming sky above, was completely encased by the stone. Only one obelisk remained separate from the dome, and on its surface a massive face formed and spoke. The face was as impassive as the surface from which it was formed. The voice rumbled with a gravelly tone.
With Spriggan gone, so are my ties to this upper world.
The brooding face looked toward the Storm Speaker.
Goodbye. oldest of cubs.
A slight smile crossed the Storm Speaker's face at the title the Underking used. It was the same name that Spriggan had been fond of calling him. His looks belied his actual age of 999 years upon Mistgard.
So you will return to the Underrealm? Yes.
The Underking replied flatly.
And what of your brothers, and the war they will bring upon Mistgard now that Spriggan has passed?
Said the Storm Speaker.
My brothers care nothing for me, just as I care not for them. I wish nothing more than to be gone from this upper world. I wish to be back amongst the stones and the earth. This upper world is wretched, where brother wars upon brother, and clan against clan. You surface walkers learned nothing of what Spriggan taught you. She has left you now, and so too shall I.
The Underking's face receded back to the stone's inanimate surface, and the obelisk that had borne his visage spoke no more. Thank you for listening. This has been a Cybrarian production of The Last Winter by Samwise Didier. Artwork courtesy of Samwise Didier. Audio samples courtesy of YouTube Audio Library. Additional voices by Shazria. For updates, follow Vane Studios on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell of the Cybrarian YouTube channel. And if you're feeling generous, buy us a coffee.